Hi, I'm Sophie.
Hi, I'm Paul.
And we are SP Film Viewers.
It's Christmas time.
Is that your way of trying to sound festive?
I guess so.
So I'm actually a little bit sad about this because even though it's going to be putting out on Christmas Eve, it's one of those things where it's going to be the last Christmas movie that we'll be reviewing. So it's somewhat bittersweet. Until next year, obviously.
Yeah,
but you know what I mean? It's just like, I feel like it's just gone too quickly. Like the Halloween week dragged.
Is that because of the things you didn't enjoy so much as you do Christmas, really?
I love Christmas to bits, and I feel like I've blinked and it's arrived already. I am prepared though, so that's okay. I've not got any presents or anything like that. I'll never be that person.
No,
but I just
far
think
too organised for that.
I just think it's gone a bit too quick, and we're on to his last movie review of the year, really.
Yeah.
Where is 2020 gone? I'm glad it's going. I can't wait for 2021, and I think that I can second that.
As most people will agree on that, definitely.
Oh gosh, it's been a horrible year for everybody, and I just hope that 2021 brings us what we really wanted 2020 to bring, because obviously it was like a new decade kind of thing. It was, 2020, the same digits. It was meant to be a really, really brilliant year, and I think...
And just be remembered for all the wrong reasons, really.
Yeah, and it's brought so many other implications that it's going to ruin 2021 as well a little bit. Hopefully we'll kind of on the sunnier side of the mountain soon, hopefully. Let's hope for warmer weather. But anyways, Christmas. Yep. Christmas special, last one. But Merry Christmas Eve.
When this will be coming out, yeah. Or maybe even a day before. Or when I get to
Merry
scheduling,
Christmas,
get
Merry
to editing.
Christmas Eve then.
Yeah.
Or Eve. Can carry this on, Paul.
So today we'll be talking about one of our favourite Christmas films, and that is Love Actually.
So we actually agree on something here, for once.
Yeah.
We actually mutually agree, which, actually, to be fair, I didn't really like this film until I met Paul. I know it sounds really weird because it's got a little bit of a chick flick element to it. But I think it was just one of those things where it was just overrated at the beginning, a little bit for me. I think a lot of people were saying how brilliant it is, and to be honest, it is brilliant. But I think it was just like it's just on constantly, and it was just really, really plugged, wasn't it, around the time it was released?
Yeah, it was, yeah. So this was the directorial debut of Richard Curtis, who also did films like The Boat That Rocked and About Time, which, we like.
Yeah.
So he's in that regard, he hasn't done many films, but he's done a lot of writing stuff, but he's probably, I guess, based on how much I enjoy these films, he's one of my favourite directors.
He seems to kind of involve a lot more stories within it. You're not just got boy meets girl. You have all these little side stories, and I think that was the first time I really saw that happen in a movie, where you really can't, in Love Actually, for me, pinpoint who your main
Exactly, it's a very
is.
ensemble cast that you've got here, and the way that he sort of interweaves all these character stories in quite closely, when you kind of look at the certain points within the film, you can see the crossover between how these characters all are in this small world kind of environment, and the fact that that friend knows this friend, but he works with this colleague and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so it's like the relations, isn't it? And like the school kind of, well, my child goes to that school, so then I know this person.
Yeah. And look, when you said about the fact that, it was a very popular thing back in the day, so I think when it came out in 2003, and then the following year it was one of the most rented DVDs in the UK in 2004, the following year when it came out. So that kind of speaks on that part, because it was that popular.
It was so popular, and I think I just thought, this is a bit overrated, and I think my dad, one of those things, plays things to death and then kind of spoil it for me. So I think for a while, until I met you, I didn't watch Love Actually. It was kind of not...
Yeah, I can't really recall how I sort of got into really watching and loving this so much as I do, but I think it's from way back, the early days, probably when it did come out on DVD and stuff. I would have seen it in like when I was in high school,
Mm.
and it was just something I just found like endearingly charming type of way, the Britishness of it, and just the whole host of characters that we've got in it are like, oh, like I like this person, I like this person, and they did a really good job.
I think there isn't really a character that you really don't despise that much. There's a couple that I don't gel with as 100%, but they all are quite nice characters that they portray. I think the only thing I would say is it's one of those films where you have to kind of watch it, and then kind of the more value add you get from it. So like the first time you watch it, you won't remember who everybody is and stuff like that, and it's a little bit more complicated, I guess, the first watch. But as soon as you're kind of getting into it, it's not so bad. But a fun fact for everybody out there, this was the first film me and Paul ever saw together.
Yeah, for the very first date, I guess you could call it, where we were watching this on TV.
Yep.
And yeah.
So that was literally our first day, and we hardly spoke to one another, to be honest. And there was that awkward scenes, because there's a lot of kind of a bit of... It's one of my favourite characters, which is...
Martin Freeman's character, who's called John.
John. And he's so lovely and so cute and sweet. And obviously he's going out with the Gavin and Stacey lady. That's the Welsh one, isn't it?
Just Judy is what she's referred to in the film. But yeah, so there's kind of that childishness, which I kind of related to in myself at that, especially at that time, is that character kind of that awkward, like, oh, you don't want to trouble you if you don't want to go on a date or anything, that kind of
But the thing about it is I could kind of see that when we were watching it, because you wouldn't really look at me either. You were that shy.
Yeah.
But it was really, really cute the way that they were, but quite awkward as well for our first meet, where there's a bit of like sexual scenes, and I was like feeling really, really uncomfortable watching them next to you, because it's like...
yeah, we hardly know each other.
Yeah. And then there's this coming on the telly, and I'm like, don't really know where to look now. But obviously that's not really the issue anymore. It's one of those things, isn't it? It's just on there. There is, I think, what rating is Love Actually? Because it can't be just because of the scenes, some of the scenes.
Yeah, I think because of certainly at the time it will probably have been maybe 15, because there's a bit of, well, quite a lot of swearing in
and
it.
A bit of nudity, isn't there?
Yeah. I know.
A lot of boobs pop out.
For the UK, that's not... Censorship for the UK is not quite as bad as for the Americans. So nudity is not so frowned upon so much in British thing as it seems. But I reckon probably now it would probably be at a 12 rated now.
Yeah, possibly.
Possibly, but... So, in terms of actual storylines we have, I counted them out and wrote down all the sort of like the players that we have in the throughout the course of the film, and there's about 9, I think, different separate storylines all connected together in a sense.
Yeah, that's what I love about this film, is that the fact that you do have so many stories. It never gets boring, even though we know it word for word. We watch it every year because it's really close to our hearts now, isn't it? Because obviously it was his first meet when we watched it together. So it's one of those that we just have to now watch it. But I think it makes it, if it was just one couple, I think it would get a bit boring. But the fact that you've got 9 different stories, it reminds me a little bit of Game of Thrones, a little bit, like when you're all over the place, you've got
someone in this country,
yeah, and that's how it
kind
feels.
Of moving around,
and it works really, really well because of that. And I think that's why you've got such rewatchable value. Yeah,
I don't think this would work if it was sort of like a TV series or anything like that. I mean, you could potentially span out storylines a lot longer if you did it that way, but I think you get enough sense about the characters, I think, from the short. It's about, it's about 2.25 hours long.
But it doesn't feel that long when you're watching it, because it is so light-hearted. It's quite easy to watch, and it's not really complicated, really, apart once you know the certain characters and which stories they're in. I still today struggle with the names of the characters, unless I know actually the actor.
Yeah.
I still don't know all of their names, but you know which story they're related to and how they link and coincide with one another. So I think I want to know, though, Paul, what is your favourite story?
I'm just looking through the list of what I've got down, but I think the strongest I feel, and the ones that are sort of most developed in a way, is the one with Liam Neeson's character Daniel and his stepson Sam, who's played by Thomas Brody Songer. Sam's mum's just died, and then he tells his stepdad that he should be thinking about his mum's died, but he's actually in love with this girl at school, and he's like trying to think of a way to get her attention, and it transpires that there's a school play, and then if he learns an instrument to play, that he'll get plays fantastically, that he can win over like a true romantic style type.
Do you know, funnily enough, that's my favourite story of it as well.
Oh, right, okay.
So when you sat there and looking through, I'm thinking, I already know mine. I know which one it is. And so it's quite strange that you picked that one. But I think it is, like you're saying, the relationship as well. And I think it does get tied up nicely in a bow at the end. I feel like that one is your main part at the end, which actually...
One of the main players, yeah. The other one that is sort of like in tie, but it's a close second, I'd say, is the story we have with Harry and Karen, which is played by Alan Rickman and Emma Thompson, respectively. It's quite a sad story. It just hit quite hard in the feels with how that plays out in their storyline. But emotional ride on that, and that's quite a powerful performance from them.
Emma Thompson does a brilliant job of making you feel remorse for her, and I think any woman, any person can, I guess. But I think just because it is a woman feeling a bit down on herself, and obviously her husband has seen a prettier thing and decides to give her a gift, and you can see that kind of sad upsetment, and gosh, it makes me upset every single time when she's listening to Joni Mitchell in that room, and she puts her on, and it's like a typical woman thing of, right, okay, have to put a face on, kind of like act to make sure that the kids are okay.
Yeah.
And I think women can do that a hell of a lot better than men can. So like...
Yeah, I'll probably admit to that. It's easier for women to put a brave face on for the kids.
Yeah, brave face on. And even you saw it when Cher was asking the question, and then this woman's going, oh, see you later, love. And, then she breaks off.
Yeah, that's one of why I said to you was kind of like, I felt like it was a realistic portrayal of how someone would react into that story in real life. If someone said that you were having an argument with a spouse or whatever, and then someone comes like your friend and oh yeah, see you later, and then carry on the conversation like normal, like trying to make it seem like everything's okay to everybody else.
Yeah, but when it's not.
Yeah.
I think that's really difficult personally to do anyways, but it is a thing where women seem to be able to do that, and I think she's quite forgiving really towards him. But actually I think that you can see it's still tarnished. That thing called the love, which they did have, isn't as special.
Yeah,
the trust's gone a little bit, and I think that's the saddest one.
Part of it. Yeah, really. The other sadder one, which it doesn't work out for another one of our storylines, is the Sarah and Carl storyline, that where they work in where Alan Rickman works in this office, where we don't really know what they do exactly. He's got Carl, who's the chief designer, but what they design is anyone's guess, really. It's not really established. But so there's this like, will they, won't they, with these two characters, Sarah and Carl. But she like really is smitten with him, this handsome guy.
He's quite dashing, really, to be honest. He's a bit of like a tanned, sleek body, black hair.
Yeah.
I think it's a little bit like a bit of a greasy kind of thing. I don't really like him. Right. And I think, to be honest, Sarah could do a lot better than him. And I know lots of people think what you're on about, Sophie, he's gorgeous. But if he really loved her and he really cared about her, he wouldn't have a problem with her brother. He would do anything for her.
Yeah,
and he doesn't.
So the thing with her brother is the fact that she's American and her brother is also American and moved over from the States to London for whatever, I guess, work reason. I don't know, because they haven't got the family anymore there in the States. And he's not well, as she puts it, really. So he's like constantly ringing her mobile phone. So it kind of like that real life distraction that's always constantly going on in her work life and personal life in general.
It hinders her personal life, but I think, to be honest,
If he really was interested in her, he'd understand.
yeah, he would. He'd
That-
care and he'd understand and he'd be there for her and he'd be compassionate. But he's not. It's just like, well, you need to pick. Don't ring the phone. It's either me or him. And it's like, well, that's never going to work. You're not the right person.
And there's a part where the phone's been ringing constant. She's having to answer the phone, and then there's a part when it's kind of like after this incident with Carl and Sarah in the bedroom and everything, and that didn't happen. Then they're back in the office like normal, and they're kind of like good night in the office, and like Merry Christmas.
Yeah,
that's it. She's upset, and then she immediately rings her brother because at least she's got
him.
a family member to turn to in this the time of
Christmas,
and then go spend time with him in where he's based.
And I think sometimes it's one of those things. It's a sacrifice that she's got to do. It doesn't resent it really because she wouldn't want to not be there for him, and I think that's the thing with that one. That is a little bit sad, but the rest of them are lovely, lovely, happy endings.
Yeah.
Which is really, really nice to have for me personally, anyways.
Yeah. We'll run through the other ones very briefly because I say there's quite a few, and you can check them out for yourself. And then I'll ask you, Soph, is there anyone in particular you don't really, the weakest one?
Okay, yeah. I've got them already in my head, don't worry.
Okay. So the very first one we're sort of introduced to is the storyline of Billy Mack, played by Bill Nighy, who's this like old rock and roll legend who's trying to make a comeback for the Christmas #1. He's quite entertaining, as he always is. He always plays it a brilliantly comic character.
And he seems to be, the director must love him anyways because he's been in Rock the Boat and in About Time.
Yeah. Another one we've got is Colin Firth as Jamie. He's recently, kind of left his girlfriend, I presume.
Well, yeah, because she was shacking up with her brother, wasn't she? No wonder I'd leave it. I'm pretty sure you would if that were happening. Yeah. You wouldn't be sticking around, would you?
Yeah, so then he goes away to his holiday home in France. And
wouldn't we all love one of those?
Yeah. Just before Christmas as well, I'm thinking he must be all right to be doing
he's
that.
Well off, isn't he?
So he meets his housekeeper, Aurelia, who's from Portugal. And there's sort of like, even though there's a language barrier there, there's kind of like that blossoms quite quickly somehow. But
yeah, it does really, really quickly, to say the least, to say that they both speak the language and then end up, he's proposing to her, but I'm wondering if that's obviously to get her into the country, probably. That's what I think of it now. When I was younger, thinking it was really sweet and romantic, I'm thinking, yeah, you're just trying to push that through.
The green card.
Yeah.
The other one we've got is Hugh Grant as the Prime Minister.
Mm-hmm.
And he's kind of like this meet cute thing with Natalie, who's played by Martine McCutcheon.
I think she does a cracking job. Does Martine McCutcheon? I really do like her character within this. And the Prime Minister, for us, we think it's a bit like a
Tony Blair type of
character
personality. I think around that time sort of was reflecting on that anyway. But he can almost, but he's quite aloof and somewhat comical, despite not as extreme as Boris, perhaps. But
maybe not. No. Do you think if he was actually our Prime Minister, he wouldn't be doing a bad job at the moment? To be fair.
Another one we've got is the sort of like, I guess you can call it a love triangle.
Yeah.
With Juliet, Mark, and Peter, and it's Juliet and Peter's wedding, and Mark is the one who's infatuated with Juliet but won't tell Peter about it.
But Peter's his best friend, so you don't want to kind of ruin a friendship over a girl, do you? And I think Mark does really, really well at trying to distance himself from Juliet. So Juliet always thinks that he hates her when actually it's just because he's infatuated with her, but he can't probably be around her that much because it hurts.
Too much, yeah. And then I think finally we've got the Colin Frizzle character, who's played by Chris Marshall, and he's wanting to, try and hook up with just a girl, really, that is anybody, but he'll pretty much go for anybody, really, by the time things he's that way out. But he decides to just go visit America because, girls are there, are more attractive and always up for a laugh kind of thing. And so it's just be so easy, apparently, to just go to America and you instantly get a girlfriend.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's not too
Apparently
much truth in that, I don't think.
Just because
But
he's got a British accent, it's
which he, yeah.
you know, and I know everybody loves our accents. You must think they're amazing, but I think it's one of those. I don't really think ours is that brilliant because I hear it every day. If you get where I'm coming
Yeah.
from, whereas I guess if like an American accent came over, maybe I would. It would be more
Because
appealing.
it sounds
It's different, isn't
interesting, and
yeah. So like his accent for me does nothing.
Yeah. Okay then. So, which is your worst?
Colin.
Story? Yeah, you don't like it.
I don't like him. He annoys me. All he wants to do is go around and sleep with people. It's not actually to do with the love. Actually, you know, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not really. Is it? He's thinking with something else in his pants, and I think that's the bit that annoys me a little bit with him. So I feel like you could probably, if you wanted to reduce your hours down, he could be a character you could get rid of.
Right. For me, I don't really. If there's one story I don't really care too much for is the Jamie and Aurelia storyline.
What, really? I think
Yeah.
that's quite sweet, actually. I think that's better than the Colin one.
Colin's just more from like comedic effect,
Like,
really. But I
I
suppose you got
really
that with
like-
Billy Mack anyway. But
Yeah, well, Billy Mackey would be my next one, I think, to be honest. But then I do like the relationship he's got with his manager. So I feel like I think that's quite sweet.
proper digging into him, but then at the end is kind of
Yeah. And I've
Sure,
realised this actually shows you what fame can do to you. Like, actually, yeah, I've got all this money, but I've got nobody to spend it with. And it's like, well, what was the point? I've had a brilliant life, but not anything stable.
Mhm.
So do you think Billy Max could go? He does get a little bit grating, but at the end it does kind of tie up nicely. Whereas I feel like Collins, it just fizzles out, doesn't it?
Colin Frizzle
Yeah.
frizzles out.
Whereas Jamie and Aurelia, I know it's a bit sudden and a bit too fast, and me and Paul like to go very, very slow with things, you know. How long have we been engaged now? 2 years, is it? Not the 5-year engagement yet.
Yeah.
But... so we do go a bit slower, so maybe that's how come we don't relate to the Jamie and Aurelia. But I think it's a cute little love story, but then I do think, well, how do you know you like one another when you haven't even spoken hardly a word
Exactly.
to one another?
That's what I'm getting at with that, really. It's kind of just I don't have a very strong connection with it, is all I'm saying.
No, I don't blame you on that one. So with this film in mind, we're not going to kind of go too full in depth. I think it's one of those where there is a lot of stories like we've just briefly overviewed, and that's probably the main bit we're going to give you. I think for what my purpose from this is just maybe a little bit of the meaning behind Love Actually. I just want to kind of say how that film makes me feel, and I think it's the whole meaning of love is all around us, and I think that, I know that sounds cliche, and Christmas is all around us, and you know,
As they say in the song.
Yeah, I think it's one of those really, really honing in on a really, really strong Christmas message, which doesn't have to just be for Christmas. It can be every single day, and I think that's where it shows you. And I think for me this year, God, it made it so much more hard and upsetting, because there's a bit at the end where there's an airport scene.
And at the beginning as well.
Yeah, and they're saying about when the Twin Towers, horribly as it was, all came crumbling down, didn't it, because of the terrorist attacks. It wasn't messages of hate or anything like that, or this was, you know, horrible and slagging somebody off. It was all messages of love, making sure your family, everyone was all right. And I think we need to come back to that this year in 2020. It's really been a tough year, and I think it's just making sure you're looking out for your loved ones, you're there for them, even if you can't be there for them as the way you would normally be. And it did touch on me a little bit, like the airport scenes, running up and hugging and kissing your family and your loved ones, and that's something that's been so stripped away from us this year that, for me, it just made me whelm up how much I missed.
I agree with that. The interaction with everybody is just non-existent at this time.
And I think that makes it so hard for me, because literally I'm such a huggy person. Like, if Paul could hug me 24/7, I would let him, you know, not saying that me and Paul can't hug, but you know what I'm meaning. Like, anyone I meet normally, I would hug them. That would be, I wouldn't just stand and wave. That's not the way that I roll at all. So for that kind of, to watching it, and the way that they say love is actually everywhere, that's what they're meaning by love actually.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I didn't realise that half as much as when I watched it this year.
Yeah.
That actually we need to just make sure that love is everywhere. And I think with coronavirus as well, you need to spread your love differently, but still be there for your loved ones and your family, and respect your family and their wishes, and I think that's
It's all we can do.
All you can really do in these situations. So definitely go and watch it. It's wonderful and funny, and it has your laughing moments, your tear jerkers. It's literally just takes you on a roller coaster of emotions.
You've got all sorts of things going on throughout the film, and I think you probably at least enjoy a couple of the stories, if nothing else. But we do highly recommend this one to give us a watch. So now we'll go through some of the facts I looked up.
Yeah.
To think, because I know we were going to give this such high praise. There wasn't, other than just talking out generalising about how great it is. There wouldn't be much point in and going through the depths of the entire storylines, because there's quite a few.
Yeah, and we don't want to spoil it for you viewers who haven't seen it, because actually realised that it might be more of a British thing than I was aware of. I thought a lot of people would know of this film, like it'd be just an iconic film, but it's not the case, I don't think. It's more British viewing, so anyone in any different country, go and find a copy somewhere and give it a watch, and you'll really enjoy it.
So we'll go through some facts now that I've written down.
I don't know these, so I'm quite excited to hear them.
Okay. Start off with the word actually is said 23 times throughout the film.
Is that all?
Yeah, 23,
feels like there's actually more than that.
When you go back to the footage of the airport, Heathrow was shot over a week with hidden cameras, so they didn't even know. So it's the actual genuine thing, wasn't acting thing, which it kind of looks that way, doesn't it? From when you see the footage. It really does. Yeah.
That's even makes it more lovelier for me. That it's actually just genuine people spreading love, and it's lovely.
As you might imagine, it wasn't originally supposed to be a Christmas film.
Oh, just like Die Hard one, but people just clutch at straws. This is definitely more than a Christmas film than Die Hard. It's got a Christmas message. It did have Christmas trees in it. It has more Christmas themed. Like, it's got a nativity in it, even if people are turning up as octopuses and lobsters.
Yeah.
It still is Christmassy in that aspect.
There was supposed to be 14 stories, actually, to be.
I think that might have been a bit too heavy. So there was 9, you said, didn't you? I think if there was 14, I think you'd lose a little bit, I think. So I'm glad they've not made it to 14.
Yeah, I think those lost before production involved a girl with a wheelchair, and one about a boy who records a love song for a classmate who ultimately hooks up with his drummer. There was one featuring an African couple supporting each other during a famine. Another storyline that follows a school headmistress and her long time commitment to her lesbian partner.
So I guess they were just trying to be a bit more cultural and diverse, aren't they, really, with those? And that's not an issue at all, but I think it's one of those where you need to pick your strong storylines.
Yeah,
and I think
by the time that they didn't come across as strongly as...
They might have been a bit more sad as well. I think it might have played a bit more of a sadder role, and I don't think that's what the director was going for. He wanted it to be light-hearted and fun at the same time as have a brilliant message.
Yeah. Talking of things being cut, the fact that you might be not surprised about this, that the fact that some of the stuff is actually cut from television broadcasts because, like the sexual acts of Marx and Freeman, even though it's all fake in terms of what they're doing, in terms of mimicking it all, is, not too appropriate for television viewing, I suppose. So
no, not really. It is one of the most awkwardest scenes in there. Even though I do love their character and their coupling, I think that's what's the strangest bit about it, because he's such a shy character. You wouldn't think he'd be in that field of work, really.
No,
like being a body. Is he like a stunt double or something? Like
possibly,
because he said he was filling in for Brad Pitt on one occasion. So I think it's more like maybe he's in. I don't know, like Joey on Friends, sometimes is the butt of whoever.
Yeah.
But then I was thinking Martin Freeman in this one's not like buff, really, is he? So whoever he was trying to portray wasn't really.
No, it could be anything. But I think it's probably one of his earlier roles anyway, just fresh out of The Office, I think.
Well, I do love him to bits. He's one of my favourite actors, and secretly really quite good looking, I think. I even now, he's a bit older now, isn't he?
Grey hairs.
Still with his grey hair, is rather good looking.
Martine McCutcheon's role in Love Actually was penned just for her.
Oh, so they
she was
actually
like,
knew that
she was going to be for that particular role, and she didn't want anything. Yeah,
she plays it really, really well. You can't really think of any other role she should be in. She fits it so well, so that makes sense.
And you had to change the character's name. It was originally going to be Martine anyway, but so they changed it to Natalie, I think, because she might be a bit too big-headed with having that. Oh, it's just for me.
Yeah, and as well as Natalie's quite close, isn't it? So that makes sense, and it's a nicer name.
Yeah. One of the scenes in Love Actually where it was lifted directly from Four Weddings and a Funeral.
I've seen that, and I don't really know what.
Yeah, it's to do with where Hugh Grant's character Charles flirts with a woman at the wedding by mocking terrible catering, and then discovers that she's the caterer. But that scene was cut from Four Weddings.
Oh right,
and applied to Love Actually. So
Ah.
Richard Curtis was writer and on Four Weddings. So that he was probably written that and thinking, oh no, I use that joke in my own town.
That's fair enough, I guess. I didn't.
Yeah.
I was going to say I didn't really remember seeing that in Four Weddings. I'm thinking,
The sad scene with the Joni Mitchell thing and Emma Thompson
that gets
crying.
me every time.
Shot her crying scene 12 times.
That's not actually that bad. Because she does do really, really well at portraying that emotion. Like she actually is physically crying, so she must have been thinking of something close to her.
Yeah.
To make her want to feel that emotion.
But I'm sure she probably did it excellently every time, I imagine. And she should have been a bit of a perfectionist, perhaps, maybe.
Yeah, I know the way that she acts. She does want to get everything quite precise, and she's got a way in her head of how she wants it to be as well. But credit to her, she makes me cry every time, so she's done a brilliant job of it.
Hugh Grant did not want to dance to the...
Well, no, I don't blame him because it's shocking.
Yeah.
It's one of his favourite scenes. It's amazing.
It's so comical. He kept putting it off and didn't like the song anyway. It was supposed to be a Jackson 5 song, but I think for legal reasons they probably couldn't get the licensing to use it, so it had to be the Jump song. But they didn't shoot it until the final day, and then the way we edited it had gone really well, and he was singing along with the words anyway, so he's probably getting into it.
I think it's brilliant, but I think probably he's just thinking, I'll just give my all to it, and I'll probably just want one take of it.
Yeah.
So I don't have to be doing this over and over again.
Yeah. Simon Pegg auditioned for Love Actually.
You'd love this, wouldn't
you?
Because you're a big fan of Simon Pegg. It's like your man crush. I'm glad he's not in it, because unless he'd be... The only characters I could think he would be Bill Nye.
Bill Nye.
Yeah, whatever his name is.
Or
Colin.
Oh, right, okay, no. It was supposed to be cast as the Rowan Atkinson character. You know, where he's in the jewellery shop and he's, putting the gift box together.
You mean Mr. Bean?
Yeah, Mr. Bean, yeah. Mr. Bean.
Yeah, actually, no, I can see that he could have done that well, but I prefer Mr. Bean.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? Would you prefer Simon Pegg in it?
It could have been interesting, I'm not going to lie.
He could have actually done that bit quite well.
Because that would have been before, like, Shaun of the Dead, so it'd be, like, fairly young, fresh-faced. That bit, so yeah, it could have been interesting.
Did he not get it, though, I'm guessing, because obviously we've got Mr. Bean instead.
According to the notes I hadn't written down, was he cast Rowan Atkinson, who is a bigger star anyway, but he's a long-time friend of Richard Curtis anyway.
Ah, okay, so they had that connection.
Yeah, when they worked together as part of Four Weddings and a Funeral, if you remember, he was one of the priests in one of the weddings.
Was.
And such, and Blackadder as well, so...
Makes sense. Poor Simon Pegg didn't have a chance.
Mm-hmm. And funnily enough, Rowan Atkinson's character was meant to be portrayed as like an angel, like a guardian angel.
Well, I can kind of see that at the end with the little boy.
Not see that as well for the other one because of the fact of, it's been that's why it's taken so long to get the gift box together, to sort of like put a spanner in the works for him trying to get this jewellery that he's not supposed to be getting.
Maybe, yeah, I guess, but he still ends up getting it, so he's not done a very good job, has he? Of not getting it.
It might not have been him who sold it to him. He tried. You don't see him going back to get the jewellery, so you don't know who he got it from.
No, true. But I think it's more at the end with the little boy.
Yeah, you can.
At the airport, trying to get in to go and see
his girl crush.
Yeah, I think that's more where he helps him out.
So with test audiences, seeing how the story ends with like Carl and Sarah.
Yeah.
It was I think originally going to just be after that phone call, from the brother, and then they're sitting on the bed and they're kind of like looking away from each other, and that'd be the end of the story.
And so you wouldn't kind of touch base
wouldn't
again.
have that bit with the where I said about the office and then saying good Merry Christmas and that being that. So put that in, I think, to really get a clear resolution to the end of that, saying it's not going to happen.
So that we know that it's
for a fact that's done.
Which Sophie likes, because obviously I think. But to be fair, I think that kind of is obvious from that and the first scene. To be honest, I actually think
it makes a bit more clarity on that. The movie has been remade 3 times.
What do you mean? So Love Actually been remade by other people?
In different countries, yeah.
Oh, okay. But is it still Love Actually but other actors?
Yeah. So, central concept of the movie is, the whole intertwining love stories translated into different countries. So the first is Indian one called A Tribute to Love, which is apparently an unofficial remake in the Hindi language.
Right, that's interesting.
Poland tried a version which is called Letters to Saint Nicholas.
Oh.
So whether that's just a remake entirely within their thing. The most recent version, I'm not entirely sure, I didn't look the actual date up, is Japan's It All Began When I Met You.
Oh, I like that, actually.
Which borrows the concept of it, and then also the film poster layout, which if you look on Google you can see the Love Actually poster where it's kind of just like very few faces on the box or on the poster itself.
I think we might have to watch that. I still want to watch Love Actually though as well, but I think I would be quite interested in
next
seeing
year.
that.
Yeah. As sad as it is, it's been confirmed that from the script writer of Love Actually that Alan Rickman's character did actually have an affair.
Well, yeah, of course. Why would you buy somebody a gold necklace if you weren't going to get your leg over?
Yeah, it wasn't just like a lust thing. It was actually like the full blown.
Yeah. I thought that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's not just a necklace, but it was just a nice way of portraying it. It's like, why else would you buy somebody a necklace if you weren't going to be getting something out of it? I know that sounds bad, and you shouldn't have to buy gold necklaces just to get sex, but there's kind of you know that there's something implied.
Yeah. But the script writer also confirmed that again they do stay together, but as you kind of said, the home isn't as the same as it was. It wasn't a happy home anymore. It's kind of just like staying together for the kids, I guess.
Yeah, that's kind of not the right thing to do, even though the kids might be happy, but they know they're not daft.
Character Sam, he learned how to play the drums for the role.
Oh, bless him. He's only little, isn't he?
Yeah. And him and Hugh Grant are actually second cousins.
Oh, really?
So their great grandmothers were sisters. So they share a great grandmother.
That's amazing. That is. They kind of look a little bit alike. I can kind of see some similarities. So do you think that's where his acting kind of got
maybe
taken away a little bit, possibly with it all, possibly?
Yeah. And at the time, his character was 13, and Keira Knightley was only 17.
She was a lot older than 17.
I know, doesn't she just?
Yeah,
yeah,
she really does in that. She looks a lot older. She's getting married and everything. I'm thinking she's like portraying somebody in her 20s or something.
Yeah, exactly, like 20s, yeah.
But she don't look that old now, does she really? Because normally I think if you've aged and you look that old when you're that young, then God help you when you're older. That's all I think. Because I get ID'd still now, and I'm 28 years old for alcohol. And I know that sounds daft, but I do. But then a part of me thinks, well, if I look about 18 now, then when I'm 40 years old, I'm only going to look about 20. Yeah?
Yeah.
And you're going to look like an old man next to me.
Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah. I'll just go for a few more now, I think. So, actor who played Colin Frizzle wasn't paid for the scene where he gets seduced by the 3 American girls because, he had such a great time getting to get undressed for obviously it's a silhouette in the thing, but he said like he gave up his paycheck for that day's work because he had so much fun.
That worries me a little bit. What was he actually doing, Paul? Was he actually doing the do?
Don't know, maybe.
Because I won't get paid for that because I've just had sex on the job or something.
Who knows?
It sounds a bit wrong.
Yeah. Richard Curtis's daughter, Scarlett, appears as one of the lobsters in the school Christmas play.
All right.
So I don't think it's the main
The main
daughter
lobster.
of
Emma Thompson.
Emma Thompson's character. Yeah. And also, his son also pops up as, he's the one with the Spider-Man face paint.
Oh, that's so cute. Is that kind of to make him stand out a little bit, possibly?
Yeah.
Because I do think they do hone in on him, and I'm thinking that would be Paul. You'd just be sat there like not wanting to be part of this play unless I'm Spider-Man.
Yeah, exactly. So it wasn't the real number 10 Downing Street that was filmed in. It was allegedly Gordon Brown, who was then Chancellor of the Exchequer at the time, took them on a tour of number 10, but they couldn't take any photographs or notes, so they had to pretty much have to create the layout from memory. So, but they must have done a good job of that, because you fairly believe that is.
Well, yes.
Something of what it might look like inside.
But of course, they can't possibly let you in and take pictures. No. And we're far too posh for that. And it's like, come on, it's just number 10. It's just a house at the end of the day, isn't it, where the Prime Minister lives?
Yeah.
Anyway. And as well, to be honest, it's just one of those on the street. The thing is, though, it looks massive, and it's like, so it must be long, because it doesn't look that massive from the outside. So how much depth there is, I'm not sure.
I think we'll end on this one, which is the fact of the song Too Lost in You, played by the Sugar Babes, is in the UK version of the film when, it's when they're having the Christmas party scene. That's playing.
And he's got, what's his face, dancing and...
with it, yeah.
Yeah.
That. But for the American audiences, it will have been The Trouble with Love Is by Kelly Clarkson.
I didn't even know what that was. I'm not even going to lie. When I heard it on the end credits, I was like, who is this?
So for us, there was on the end credits of the film. So I don't know if it was reversed for the Americans, whether the Too Lost in You played at the end credits of the American version. I don't know, maybe someone can tell us.
Yeah, let us know. Leave a comment or something like that. Would be interesting. Or even if you don't know who the Sugar Babes is. Obviously, I do know who Kelly Clarkson is.
Yeah.
I just didn't know that song. So like a breakaway album, I'm 100% aware on that one.
Mm.
It was very, very good, because I think I'd just broken up with somebody, so it was quite helpful. That album took me
That's
through.
a good album, actually.
It's a fantastic album. So everybody, I hope that you've all had a wonderful Christmas wherever you are and whatever you can do or can't do this year. And remember that love is all around us.
Yeah, and finally, I'm pretty sure I know what the answer's going to be. The actual scoring of the film.
Oh, yes. Sorry. I thought that was already a given.
Yeah, we know. You might have gathered we know what both ours is going to be, but
it's going to be very, 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 very high. 11. I know we don't score out of 11, but to me, I'd give it 10 triple times.
100.
Yeah.
So there's 2 10s from both of us.
Just to finish off our 2020 year and Christmas special.
Well done.
No.
But we're going to hopefully try getting another quick, well, don't know how quick it'll be, but
it's never quick with us.
No. A sort of like year review of a retrospective look back on
the year that was.
What we've covered over this year. Sort of like go over like what we've enjoyed talking about the most, what we've disliked talking about the most, and
yeah, I feel like I've got a lot more on my dislike list than you have.
Yeah, so that should be interesting. So it should just be a little lighthearted.
Might need to change that up next year.
Yeah.
New Year's resolution, possibly. Make Paul watch loads of crap films. What? No?
And don't forget, we've also got all our previous episodes available to listen back to on Spotify, iTunes, Podbean, and wherever else you might get your podcasts from.
Yep, so definitely there is 3 at the moment. Christmas, there'll be 4th, including this one, Christmas episode. So, Christmas isn't just on the 25th of December. It does actually, we have 12 days after that. People just don't realise it anymore, I think. So definitely tune in on those. Feels still festive up to is it the 6th of January or something like that? I think it is. So enjoy them and if you want to give us any comments of what you think we should review in 2021.
Yeah, any thoughts and comments on that? Just drop us a line on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Just search for SP Film Viewers on there, and we'll be in contact with you.
Yeah.
Okay, so with that being said, I hope you all have a good Christmas with, the best you can do anyway.
Yeah, just embrace what Christmas is. I know it's to do with family, but just be safe, have a fab Christmas, stay at home, eat loads of food, and just enjoy, even if it's the religious side or just family side or just thoughtfulness of Christmas.
Just eat lots of food and drink.
Embrace
Be
it.
merry.
Yeah, be merry.
Yeah.
So, Merry Christmas!
Merry Christmas. Speak to you soon.
And hopefully we will speak to you soon, but can I say Happy New Year as well?
Yeah, we can say Happy New Year for now.
Yeah, so
just
have
in case.
a fab New Year, and hopefully, fingers crossed, it can't be as bad as this one, so let's just all think positively.
Yeah, definitely.
So thank you so much for listening to us, and I hope you've enjoyed it.
Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.